Good afternoon, everybody. This is Daniel. Thanks for tuning in. And today, again, a different type of video, and I wanted to actually comment about the car market, the used car market and the new car market, and where prices might be going. Of course, that's a hot topic now. We had the chip shortage, which I believe is ending, and which has really brought up the prices of new cars. And of course, we had COVID before, which caused a supply chain disruption. So to recap that and why we have such, relatively speaking, higher prices now, is really it did start with COVID. When COVID hit, manufacturers have told their suppliers, hey, we don't think there's going to be much demand. Please make much less of everything. And that's what they did. But then supply was still there. People did actually want to go out. They did want to spend. I guess the aspect of meeting people in person was kind of like fine. But mainly people just wanted a car to get out and about. So in certain brands, that has actually helped sales. For example, Subaru, the brand that I represent, we actually saw quite a strong demand during COVID because people wanted that car that can take them off-road or camping or whatnot. So there was actually demand, and the supply began to really fall behind. This is something that we've never seen in the car industry for 30 years, 40 years. I don't know when was the last time there was such a shortage. Maybe some sort of a war or something like that. But it used to be that there were cars all over the place. If you came to a dealership and you wanted a car, you just would say whichever model and color you want, and more than likely they had it. And nowadays, that's a very different story, as you are all aware. So that's how it kind of started. The supply wasn't there, the demand was there. And so we began to see fewer cars on the lot, and fewer, and then down to zero. And then it became that when you were buying a car, you're actually placing an order for one. You're no longer are choosing a vehicle that's in stock, that's on the lot. And so now you're getting to a situation where there are no more discounts like there used to be before. Before, when dealers had cars on the lot, you could email them, you could go around between 2 or 3 of them and try to get better and better pricing below MSRP. Of course, that wasn't even a question. But over the last 3 years or so, coming up to 4 years now, that has really changed. As we saw less supply, discounts started going away. As we began having no cars in stock, you saw some dealers putting up markups. Now, certain dealers would put up a markup over MSRP just for the sake of it. Whereas other dealers, more reputable dealers, ones that you might want to come back to, such as my store, began with just MSRP pricing, pretty strict. And then as everyone around us began, charging for accessories, just adding accessories onto the car, pre-adding them, so to speak, we've began doing that too. And so the prices are actually rising a touch above MSRP for many manufacturers, for many dealerships. And that's basically where we are now. If you're looking for a new car, likely the car will be at MSRP, maybe slightly above. And the big thing is there will be a wait time. We're talking about wait times ranging from 1 month, kind of at best, up to, we've seen 6, 7, 8 months for certain cars that were either in very low supply or very high demand and kind of okay supply, and that created a wait time. So that's still the case for many cars. For example, the Subaru Crosstrek, the ones that I've done videos on. Very popular car. The supply is not that great. It is getting better. You will be seeing more coming in closer, or the wait time is getting shorter, but not to the extent of offering discounts below MSRPs, and dealers kind of competing with each other. It's really kind of a reservation system, and if you want to order one, then currently I would quote someone between 2 and 4, maybe 5 months at most on a Crosstrek if they were very specific on a trim level and color. Otherwise, they could choose from a vehicle that's coming 2 months away, 3 months away. In some cases, we may have like a unit that's been canceled or so that's only a few weeks away, so that's always possible as well. So that's still the case for many cars, but cars that have maybe a little lower demand and higher supply, maybe like trucks nowadays, domestic vehicles, Ford, Jeep, those types of cars, or even Japanese brands with little less demands, ones that have kind of didn't garner as much loyalty recently, maybe like Nissan. Those you will be seeing more and more demand, and you actually are seeing it now. If you go to some of those dealerships, a Nissan dealership, they likely will have some vehicles in stock. I know Mitsubishi, for example, does have vehicles in stock, and they've had them for quite a while now. And luxury brands as well. Luxury brands also have vehicles. Mercedes, Volvo, those are the ones that I'm more aware of. I'm sure BMW as well also have vehicles to sell to you, and there you can surely get the car at MSRP and potentially below it. So there could be some negotiation there. So the market isn't all that bad. It's not all doom and gloom, and it is coming back. Supply is coming back. But the big question is, where are prices headed? And so prices have risen up, and a part of it was supply and demand. Another big part, and this is actually the major part, is inflation. When we create so much money and put it into the system in such a short period of time, all prices around us go up. There's just no avoiding it. If you look at the M2 money supply chart for Canada, at least, I'm sure the US is exactly the same. I'm sure it's a mirror image. When you look at those money supply graphs, you'll see a line going straight up, and every few years it kind of goes parabolic, actually, when they do print out more money, quantitative easing, what have you, and then it kind of tapers off, and then something else happens. COVID, for example, the government says that they need more money, they want to print more money, they want to prop up the economy and keep things good, and they print out more, and that chart goes up. That chart for the money supply will be reflected throughout all prices in the economy. If we all of a sudden release 10% more money into the economy, you can expect prices overall to come up about that. Maybe a little less in some areas, maybe a little more in other areas, depending where the money flows into. But something like cars are a luxury, especially new cars. And remember that when that money is created at government levels, it does trickle to the banks first. And right there, banks, investors from there, maybe people with higher income, those who can get loans, those who kind of get automatic approvals, those are the people who can take advantage of that money creation right away. And often they will be buying vehicles, luxuries, and that's the reason that we've seen that bump in cars. Of course, everyone's buying groceries, so we'll see that bump there. We probably haven't seen it in electronics and TVs. Those have kind of been cheap anyways. People that have that wanted TVs have had TVs. It hasn't really been an issue, and so and you don't really need a loan, to get a TV nowadays. For most of the TVs that I'm aware of. So that part of the economy maybe has stayed pretty good, pretty constant in terms of pricing. But cars, luxuries, boats, unfortunately, they're all going up in price. And so over the last 3 years, for example, personally, we've seen with Subaru in Canada, and I'm sure it's the same in the US, increases of between $1,000, $1,500, up to $2,000 per year for the new model year. Where in the past, those increases between year to year would have been only $300, $400. I really haven't seen it before. I've been selling Subarus for almost 5 years now, And I remember the first 2 years that I was selling, you'd expect an increase for the new model year to be maybe 300 or 400, and you'd get a new feature thrown into the package. So it seemed pretty constant in terms of the prices of cars. But the last 3 years, increases of up to $2,000 for pretty much the same car, just for a new model year. And what I think is happening is, for example, if we look at a 2023 Forester or a 2023 Crosstrek a year ago, it kind of felt like, compared to other prices in the economy, compared to the price of other goods, other luxury goods especially, that model year, the 2023 Crosstrek, kind of seemed to be fairly cheap for a car. We saw the used car market go up, but the new cars kind of stayed the same. And I just thought to myself, hey, what's going to happen is the manufacturer will have increased costs. They will have increased costs of parts, labor as well because of inflation, and that will drive the margin down, which will in turn make the manufacturer and dealers increase their price. Now, the price for a new car is set by the manufacturer. That's the MSRP, so they really determine the margin for the dealer. But then, because of supply and demand, a dealer can ask for more anyhow to make up their margins larger. So that's what happens. And when the manufacturer increases their price, you, the customer, end up, and me, the customer as well, end up paying more for that product. For example, my car right here, 22 WRX, in the 2022 year, was $37,000 Canadian, or 37.3, something like that. Coming up to the 2023 model now, it's the same car, no new features, but the price has gone up to, I think it's like $39,500 now. So it's gone up $2,500 for the exact same car, just 1 year later. And there's no one entity that's evil here, other than, if you want to put a root cause to it, really, governments and central banking and increases in money supply. And so that's become an issue. On one hand, we all got to partake in it during that increase of money supply. We got checks during COVID. So the everyday man did get to have a benefit there, but more so, as I said, banks and those with access to loans, those with automatic approvals, those who knew they can get approved, especially when we had rates as low as 1% or so interest rates. People came and got those loans. So currently, where I see things going is, we do have a decrease in demand, a slight decrease in demand, mainly because of costs rising and causing less affordability, as well as being coupled with increased interest rates. That's been a huge one. Interest rates for cars used to be, what, 0.5%, 1%. Yes, if you paid in cash, you could always get maybe a little more, $1,500. But if you're financing, you got that sweet 0% or 1%. But nowadays, there's no such thing. For a new car, you can expect to pay usually 4% at the minimum on the interest rate, but more than likely 6%. I know Toyota is up to 7 or 8%. So we're talking between 5 and 8% for a new vehicle. Whereas in the past, 4.99, 5.99, that was a rate that was considered, it was normal, but it was considered high compared to a new car, and that was the rate for a used car. Used cars right now are at 9.99%. So of course, we had that increase in prices, increase in interest rates, causing lesser affordability. Now, coupled with supply chain issues and wait times, less people are going for some of those new cars, and we are seeing a slight downtick in the demand. Eventually, that will bring up the supply of in-stock vehicles in dealerships, and you will see that even with the Japanese brands, even with good vehicles like the Crosstrek, for example. One vehicle that I see that, or two vehicles that I see that happening with already, are Outbacks. Subaru Outbacks and Subaru Solterras, the EVs. So those two vehicles, we actually have a few in stock now. And so there you have a better chance of, perhaps getting the dealer to waive a fee here and there, and of course getting the vehicle right away. So that, I think, will be coming to other vehicles as well. I do see the supply of Crosstreks improve, and I don't know when, but we likely will see a Crosstrek in stock in the future. For some cars, it's still a little while away. I'd be surprised if I saw a Crosstrek in stock in the next 4 to 6 months. Guys, this could take a year, 2 years, a year and a half before we really see that area stabilize. But if you're in the market for some other vehicles, ones that maybe are not as hot, still great vehicles, like the Outback, now really is your chance. If you wanted an Outback, the vehicles are out there, and you can pretty much are guaranteed a fair deal without any crazy markups from dealers. So that's a situation there. We're also seeing Tesla, for example, and Tesla does set their prices throughout the year, not just model year by model year. And Tesla, for example, they have just reduced their prices, so clearly that's a supply-demand issue, an imbalance, maybe not an issue, but let's call it an imbalance, and that will bring more people in. So the prices are cooling off there. However, inflation is a one-way street. When I speak to certain clients, some have the idea that we're gonna go to before COVID pricing, where someone can get, I guess the interest rates are given, they're gonna be high, but if you expect vehicles to all of a sudden roll back $2,000 or $3,000 to where they were before the pandemic or the start of it, that's not gonna happen. Money supply is a constant thing, like I mentioned with that chart, and there's no way around it. Once an increase has happened, it's very unlikely that a price will decrease. We may see an incentive, but it looks to me like we're stuck with these higher prices of cars. So unfortunately, if you're buying a car now, you are paying about 10% more than what you would have paid for the same car. There might be a new generation and better technology and so on, but pretty much for the same model 3 years ago, you're probably paying about 10% more. Whereas if things were normal before this money supply creation and money creation due to COVID, you might have only seen it increase, maybe 4% over those 4 years instead of 10% or maybe slightly higher for certain cars. So when it comes to new cars, realize the MSRPs are really what they are. What you want to look for is a manufacturer or a dealer that won't charge much above MSRP at least, and hopefully a vehicle that is coming into stock. Eventually, as more vehicles come to inventory at dealerships, there will be more competition, and there may even be incentives that come from the manufacturer to incentivize the push of those sales. For example, if those Solterras or Outbacks that we have on the lot, if you're searching your area and you see them on the lot and they keep on growing in number in stock at dealerships, well, eventually either the dealer or the manufacturer will begin offering $500 off of the vehicle, $1,000 off of the vehicle, until they hit that sweet spot where supply equals demand. So that could be coming, but even in something like the Outback, I imagine it would take at least 3 months before we see anything like that. And even that's only will happen if the demand kind of winds down and dealer begin to have more and more stock in inventory. That's the only way that would happen for new cars. So that would be my take on the new car inventory. Basically, if you're looking to buy now, I don't think that you're going to be at a much better position later on, and it's best to just accept that really this is due to money creation and money supply via central banking. I've got my own opinions there. I won't get into it in this vehicle. But this was kind of my summary for new cars and new car pricing. Let's move on now to used cars. So with used cars, what we've seen is the prices have really shot up, more so than for new cars. And the reason is the lack of new car supply. If there's no new car supply, people now look at the used car market, and the more people begin to buy those used cars, the prices of them is going to go up. The less used Crosstreks there are in inventory, in used car inventory, the more the next one is going to cost because of supply and demand. At the end of the day, if someone needs a car right now and they know what they want, they know exactly, and you know, hey, a difference of a couple of grand, whether the car is 37, 38,000 or 40,000, might not matter to them that much. In some of those cases, for good cars that are in high demand and low supply, you may see a 2 or 3, even 4 year old vehicle with with low kilometers, let's say, light accidents or no accidents, good condition. It may sell for just the same as the price of a new car, or maybe 2 grand below that. And so that's what we've been all been seeing with used cars. And my projection there is that there we are beginning to see some decreases, and especially with interest rates at 9.99%, used cars are becoming less affordable. In some cases, if you're financing, even if the car is more expensive new, maybe 2 grand more, your payment might actually be lower, simply because of the higher interest rate on used cars being almost double, not quite double, but almost double what it is for new cars. As we see that demand for used cars kind of come down, those prices are coming down, and we're already seeing it. I'm already seeing it for used Crosstreks. They sit a little longer on the lot before we find a buyer, and we are listing them at lower prices than we have before. So the prices there are coming down. Now, some people have this idea that there will be some sort of a market crash with vehicles. And, you know, what I'm thinking is that's just not going to happen with used cars. Again, money supply by central banks, money printing, is a one-way street. And that vehicle, that used vehicle for a first timer or a student that someone could get very reliably for $5,000 5 years ago or 4 years ago, is now a $10,000 car. And there's just no way around that. That $10,000 car may drop to $8,000, but we're still talking about an affordable entry-level vehicle going up about 30 or 40%. And what I'm finding is the lower the price that you're looking for a used vehicle, the less likely it is to decrease, and the more likely that it has already increased substantially more than that identical vehicle, used vehicle, was in the past. The old $5,000 car is now a $10,000 car. That one rust bucket for $500 from the past is now $1,500, and so that's the unfortunate reality with used cars. I believe that we're no longer going to see, a used vehicle that's, drivable for $500. We're just not going to see it. Whereas for $300, just a few years ago, I could go and buy a running, fine but older with some high mileage vehicle just out on Craigslist or Facebook Marketplace. It was fairly easy to find them, and now no more. That vehicle is going to be $1,500 nowadays, a five-fold increase. So again, the lower the price point that you're looking at, it's almost the more you're going to be disappointed, because the increase from the past is so much higher, because those are the vehicles that are affordable, and that's what people want. Now, in terms of prices of higher priced vehicles, used vehicles, those are coming down. Some more rare vehicles, like for example the Subaru WRX STI. Back during the supply crunch when it was really bad, those vehicles could fetch $50,000-$60,000, and whereas new they would only go between 40 to 50. We would sell some for 60 or 65 or 55, something like that. No questions asked. Right away there would be a buyer. Now those vehicles are coming down in price, under 50, 45. The prices there are becoming much more reasonable, and that's what you're gonna find for those collectible, more collector vehicles. Also luxury vehicles would have also come down, and used electric vehicles have really come down in price too. So there is some good news, but it all depends on what you're looking for. So make sure that you have your expectations kind of correct to the market. If you're looking for, a higher priced luxury car, electric car, yes, now is the time to find deals. You can maybe push, a salesperson or a manager or a dealership on the price. But when it comes down to vehicles under 20K, it's hard to find a bargain. And let's go to my projection here for used cars. Again, those cars under 20 grand, the cars that lots of people are looking to get a good deal. Unfortunately, I just don't think that we'll be seeing them going down much more. Even the luxury vehicles, they've already come down a bit. I don't know how much more down they could go, because we have to realize that this will all take time, and we have about 2 years now, maybe coming up to 3 years of lots of lost production. New cars weren't being made, and so people continue to gravitate towards the used car market, and therefore propping that market. So unfortunately, that's what I'm seeing kind of going into the future as well. I think it may take another year or two before manufacturers begin to supply, and it's also their prerogative how many cars they're going to supply and how much they whether they want to oversupply the market or potentially oversupply the market. So that's what I'm seeing there. It might take another year or two before we see the prices of those mid-grade cars kind of come down relatively. Now, again, unfortunately, if this is going to take a year or 2 years, well, we have another year or 2 years to combat inflation, or to feel the effects of inflation. So the reality is, a vehicle in 2 years, your used car might actually increase another 10%. And if the market goes down 10%, well, you're kind of at the same point as we are now. So if you're looking for that crash, I don't see it coming. If you're looking for that price decrease, it will be coming, but coupled with inflation, you're just not going to see it, because inflation will increase the price of the car, while the increased supply will decrease the price of the car, kind of bringing us to a plateau with used cars. So to summarize, the really cheap used starter cars, I think that price is set. Whatever you're seeing them at now, that's kind of where they're gonna be for the next quite while into the future. If you're looking for a mid-grade car, and those would actually, those low-grade cars might actually increase because of inflation over the next 2 years. I don't really see them being oversupplied, so we only have inflation to contend with there. And a $5,000 car might actually be $5,500 a year or 2 years from now. So there you could see an increase. With those mid-range cars, it's pretty much going to be the same price as you're seeing now. It's only those higher grade cars, higher priced cars, that in the next year or two you might actually get a good deal. So if you were in the market for an STI, for example, a WRX STI, more of a collector vehicle nowadays, this is probably the time to begin looking. And over the next year and a half, you're probably going to be at the same situation, so you can look for bargains there. If you're looking for a used luxury vehicle, yes, you are going to be finding those deals to be had over the next year or so. But everything else, all we can do is continue to save up money for that purchase, you know, work on credit scores and stuff like that. But basically, if you're looking for a mid-grade car, a mid-level car, or a cheaper entry vehicle, just buy it whenever you're ready. So that's what I'd say there. I hope this was useful for you. This is a new format. Let me know what you think. I do really like this sort of more of a ranting format, and kind of gives me an opportunity to show my face and interact with you more. So let me know what you guys think, if you want to see more of this, and also give me your questions. What do you want to know about? I'm happy to interact with everyone, and I do answer your comments. So let me know what you think. Let me know what kind of questions you have, and if you want to see more of this, please subscribe. So Daniel in Vancouver, Dogstader Subaru. See you in the next one.